Perfect. So I'm Shreya Raital. I'm a product manager in the Azure Database for MySQL team that is part of the Microsoft Azure Data Group. Today I'm going to be talking about Azure Database for MySQL, which is our fully managed open source MySQL database. Now, I'm going to take it step by step, right? We'll take a step back and we'll talk about two things, two facts that I'm going to put to you, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. The first fact is MySQL is a top choice for today's developers, right? Around based on the surveys and Stack Overflow as well as by MySQL itself, we know that almost 9 out of 10 websites worldwide are powered by MySQL. 54% of the developers chose MySQL over other databases, and that just shows the sheer popularity of the database, right? And all of this is primarily because MySQL is an internet scale database. It's open source. It's got a lot of tooling support. It's got a very strong community. It's light and it's a perfect fit for the LAMP stack. And I'm sure you're familiar with LAMP stack. That's Linux, Apache, MySQL and PHP, the stack together is called LAMP stack application. So PHP applications go very well hand in hand with MySQL, and they're usually hosted on Linux. Now, the second fact that I want to put out there is the cloud, right? The movement to cloud. If you, most of our customers and companies are all moving to the cloud, you are probably all familiar with the why. On-premises environments on-premises environments have, several challenges. There's difficulty, it's a lot of capex, there's a lot to buy, there's difficulty in scaling ad hoc. It's difficult, it takes a lot of efforts to set up, high availability, resiliency, backup, restore, and stuff like that. And all of this is kind of solved by the cloud, right? It gives the best experience, especially for your very critical applications like security, resiliency. All of this comes inbuilt in the cloud. So these are the two facts, right? MySQL and the cloud. That's where the world is heading. At least the cloud is where the world is heading. And there's a lot of new technologies that are coming up. There's AI, there was IoT back then. Now there's mostly AI, other real-time capabilities that are all coming in, and that's when we need the right partner, the right tool to kind of grow and build on top of these AI facilities, right? And that's where Azure comes in to help you with your growth. Now, in terms of Azure, you can see that it's everything together. What Azure brings in is fully managed services. It gives you the support to integrate with AI. It gives you the support to build your cloud native workloads. And most importantly, it's security, it's cost effectiveness, and it is performance. Now, with all of this, we've got a bunch of databases as well on Azure, which are all fully managed. We've got SQL. You must be familiar with Azure SQL or SQL DB by itself. There's PostgreSQL. There's something called Cosmos DB, and we've also got MySQL on Azure. And all of these databases, the one thing that we want to make sure in Azure is it's intelligent, it's limitless, and it's trusted. Now, I'm going to walk through each of this and what it means for Azure Database for MySQL, but in a summary, Azure Database for MySQL is nothing but your it just runs your MySQL community edition on the cloud. So if you've been working with MySQL, you're probably using the community edition, the free and the open source community edition. So we are running that open source database on the cloud. We are hosting it for you and we are providing it to you as a fully managed database. What that means is you will not need to worry about anything, how to host it, how to take care of the security, how to set up high availability, how to scale up or scale down, all of these and the configurations. We will make sure to do that for you and you can use it just as is, right? You can put your databases, your schemas, your tables, your data onto our server and you can use it as you go. And Azure Database for MySQL isn't simply a black box. It'll also give you a little bit of control to kind of make changes to configurations. You're all probably familiar with making you probably make changes to your config files all the time to make sure that your MySQL is performant. All of these controls are still available for you, yet it is fully managed. right? So that is what Azure Database for MySQL is. And it's intelligent in the terms that you can actually provision the database in less than 2 minutes. And I'll show you a quick demo of how that works. You can scale up your databases. Auto scale is something that we provide. So what that does is, say your for especially for your IOPS and storage, if you're hitting the IOPS threshold, then we will auto scale it for you based on your AI powered database monitoring. And the most important piece for us as in Azure also is the power of the Azure ecosystem. So if you used Azure at all before, you've probably used Azure App Service or Kubernetes Service or GitHub or Actions or other such facilities, and especially these days, OpenAI and cognitive services. So you get that easy flexibility and seamless integration to all of the Azure ecosystems, and that's what intelligent is all about, right? And we've got limitless. You have the ability to scale up your storage up to 32 TBs. You have, because it uses, like I said, the community edition, you can use your existing tools, drivers, you can use any language to code with. So it's literally limitless in what you can do with it. And most importantly, you've got performance, high performance. For example, based on a recent study, we've seen that it's got 2.2x times better performance throughput compared to AWS and GCP. And I'll show you reports of that later. But that's performance. Then you can scale, not just scale up, but also scale out using read replicas. You can scale up to, like I said, 32 GB storage, but also up to 96-week course, that's the scale up. And also, you've got very good zonal resiliency as well. So it's always available, it's limitless, it's fast, and it's cost effective. And finally, it's trusted. You've got a lot of security features. So if you are at all familiar with data in rest, at motion, you've got both of those using customer managed keys. You've got TLS enforcement, and there's also already a lot of encryption that's been done that comes out of the box in Azure. And you can also use authentication level security using Azure Active Directory. You may have used Azure Active Directory before. It's now called Entra ID. And you also have full network isolation using virtual networks, VNets, or private link support. So all of this together, and I did want to show, like I mentioned earlier, the limitless piece, right? You've got performance, this surpassing most of the other clouds out there. This is the report, and you can check out more about it at Azure MySQL benchmark blog, aka.ms Azure MySQL benchmark blog. And you can see how it's not only better performance, but also gives you better price per performance, which means it's yeah, the same level is given to you, a same level of performance is given to you at a lower cost, right? And now, before I go jump into the demo, what I wanted to share is, where are you going to use MySQL in Azure? Where's the perfect fit? Now, if most of you are MySQL, if you've used MySQL before, then you know that you are using it with your PHP applications, with your websites, especially for blog sites and other websites, right? Now, WordPress and MySQL, and many of you, if you're MySQL users, I'm sure you also used WordPress or Moodle. WordPress is essentially that one platform that is used to make content management systems or blogs. And it is, if you see the stats, I think around 90% of all the websites across the world is used made using WordPress, and WordPress and MySQL go hand in hand together. Moodle is a learning management system. So if you have a school system, if you're doing some kind of tuitions, etc., it's mostly Moodle that is being used underneath, where you can do a lot of management of your courses and profiles, share notes, all of that. And it's a perfect platform for that. So that also has a very good attach with MySQL. And Magento for your e-commerce applications. If you're using e-commerce websites like your Amazons and the rest of it, I think every commerce company has an e-commerce website now. So you got Magento that also goes hand in hand with MySQL. And in Azure, you've got integrations for all of this. In fact, you've got single click templates with which you can deploy WordPress, MySQL. They'll get connected together, and you're good to go. You're good to just start building and building your websites and your learning management systems. So I'll keep this here for you to look at, and I'll show you WordPress, how to create the WordPress part of it when we're looking at the demo. But just to summarize, you've got really good integrations with WordPress, Moodle, and Magento with all one-click templates, and the resources I will share a link with you later. Right now, let's go directly to the demo and have a look at how things are in reality, right? If you are new to Azure, the one thing that you can try out is an Azure free account. Azure free account is actually completely free for 12 months. You get a lot of free services which are forever free, and then you've got a lot of other free services which are free for 12 months. And MySQL, Azure Database for MySQL is one of them. So if you go to your Azure portal, which is portal.azure.com, you don't need to worry about the MS part of it. It's just portal.azure.com. And you go and search for free services, you will actually get to see what are all the free services that come with your free account. So there are a bunch of them which are always free, and there are a bunch of them which are free for the first 12 months, right? And Azure Database for MySQL is one of them. You can just go ahead and click on create from here, or if you are not using a free account, also you can just search for Azure Database for MySQL here, and you can go ahead and click on create. Now I'll show you how simple the create experience is, right? So there are two things. Remember how I said WordPress create is also simple. First, let's look at the flexible server option, but I'll also show you the WordPress one. The WordPress one is basically just even less number of stuff to share with for you. You've got to share the web app name, you've got to share an admin username and password, and that's about it. We will create an entire WordPress site for you along with a MySQL database. But let's actually dive deep into the flexible server, Azure Database for MySQL flexible server option, where you'll see that the creation is very simple, right? You just got to create a small resource group. You give the server name, choose the region which is closest to you, and we've got tons of regions across the globe in Azure. Choose the right workload type. If you want to try through your free account, then it's make sure you choose burstable B1MS. But otherwise, you can choose any of them based on your workload. And if you're just testing it out, I would say go for B1MS or lesser than that. Um, then you've got to give your admin username, password. If you want to use Entra ID, that is Azure ID, that's also something that you can do. Choose public access or private access, which is basically your VNet integration or your private endpoint integration. And choose if you want to use any of the keys. All of this are mostly default. If you want to just test it out, you can skip most of these and just go ahead and click on review plus create. It's as simple as that, right? And once you create the server, because we don't have time to look at the creation experience, you will see the server like this, right? The server will be up and running. Everything will be in here for you. If you want to connect to it, it's one click. If you want to reset password, you can start or stop the server if you're not using it. That way you can save on your compute costs. And you also got a learning center, which for newbies, you can use this to kind of go through the entire path. We've got a beginner series, which will walk you through the basics till the end. And we also have some learn modules. There are three learn modules. One is the introduction to Azure Database for MySQL itself. Then you have another module where you can actually do the exercise and test the entire server out using a sandbox environment. So you will get a free lab that you can test things out. You don't need a credit card or anything for this part of it. And you've also got another module which will help you do the same exercise by deploying an application, a MySQL server, connecting them and running them together. So these are the three that you can test out. Meanwhile, once your server is up and running, everything's as simple as clicking a couple of controls and changing things. So for example, if you want to scale out, just change the compute tier. If you want more storage, change the storage. If you want auto scale IOPS, basically with the feature that will track your IOPS usage and scale accordingly, you can enable that. You've got something called server parameters that I was initially referring to. So for example, if you want to change any of your parameters, like max connections, you can go ahead and do it here. similar to what you used to do in your INI configuration files, right? You've got replication that you can use the replication tabs for. So if you're familiar with read replicas and those concepts and want to scale out, you've got that. You've got high availability, backup, restore, and maintenance. In fact, you've even got custom maintenance windows. So to recap a bit, when it's fully managed service, you know that we are the ones who will take care of your maintenance schedules, right? So typically we will it'll be defaulted to a system managed schedule. We will let you know in advance, give you a heads up as to when the maintenance will be. But if not, and you want to choose when the downtime will be and make sure that your critical apps are not running during downtimes, you can do that as well. You can even use this portal to create databases and create databases and delete databases. But for connections, there's two ways. You can either connect directly from the overview page. You can connect using the Azure Cloud CLI, or use your own client tools, any client tool that you're familiar with. It could be your a workbench, or it could be Azure Data Studio. You can feel free to use any of those, and you can walk around and see how monitoring, automation, all of that looks from here. And if you need any help to understand what's going wrong, monitor the resource health, you can use the help section to kind of walk you through. So this is what Azure Database for MySQL is in a very brief overview. Um, and I'm going to just leave some resources out here, and maybe we can do a deep dive later on. But if you want to learn more, just go to ak.ms MySQL-resources. It's the first one here. Now, this website will show you a bunch of all the resources, including the learning path, the videos, the beginner series, and all of that. You can go ahead and explore it. To try MySQL Flexible Server for free using an Azure free account, you can just ak.ms try MySQL free with hyphens. And anything at all you want to learn about the service, the documentation is the place to go. That's ak.ms MySQL docs. And if you have any questions, feel free to just write to us at askazure.db for MySQL at service.microsoft.com. And the best way to stay tuned to us is on social media. So you can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And one last thing that I did want to share was, if you are interested in contributing and becoming an Azure Database for MySQL contributor, and it's a very simple thing to do, right? It's a couple of simple steps, and you can go to ak.ms MySQL contributors to learn more. But basically, a contributor is avoided with one of these badges, an official recognition, and these badges will be shareable on LinkedIn and other social media. You'll get official recognitions. You can also partner with us on webinars, on building collateral together, code samples, etc. So do check out this as well, and I'll leave it at that. That's all I had for today, and we can definitely do a deep dive later on when time permits. Back to you, Yusuf. Can you hear me? If there are any questions, like I said, you can go ahead and share it to us on our email ID, or you can just ping me on social media as well. Uh, I can't hear you, so, and I have a hard stop. So thank you for dropping off. Please write to us on our email ID if you have any questions. Thank you.